yes, I'm doing this from the room where Dominic Cummings keeps his shame. It's completely empty in here. Now, these clips come from just after the last general election in December. First up, on what I'm calling the breakfast edition, a help-yourself buffet of delights, there's talk of a man who has dominated the news lately, but has been on our radar for quite some time. JD says, you've got to say that Dominic Cummings deserves a knighthood. He managed to convince the British public in 2016 that the European Union was some dastardly organisation running all of our lives. And this year he convinced the same public that Jeremy was a threat to our way of life. Both are completely ridiculous, but you've got to admire his ability in the dark arts. Deserves a knighthood. Well, I think he would probably sit well with the people in the Lords. It seems to me that the higher the accolade, the higher the funny name and the glossier the badge, then the worse a person you are. But maybe I'm getting that wrong. David says, did you see the excellent Conservative campaign ad in which Boris Johnson parodies the Love Actually card scene? I'm not a Tory, but it was genius. I didn't see the ad, but I saw the stories about the ad. And Chris says, I tried to buy a Steve Allen jigsaw today, but the guy selling them has been corrected. He's been corrected. Right. I don't really know what that means. Is there a Steve Allen jigsaw?
Hold the line, Mike.
Yeah, hold the line, Mike. Is there a Steve Allen jigsaw?
Oh yeah, they've mocked it out from the tea towel, so it's like cut up and put on a jigsaw.
I see. Oh right, it's illegal. Why am I holding this? I wasn't going to read this. I was going to read something else. One moment, please. I'll get myself sorted out any moment now. It'll take me a couple of hours. Enfield, Mohammed.
Hi, Nick.
Yes, sir.
Just want to be a passport for the 14 million people that think Britain's going to become another Singapore. I think they don't realise that Singapore's 60% poor people, migrants that come in from China and other places to do the cheap labour and keep it nice and well for the super rich.
Yeah, it has one of the worst income inequalities of any place on earth.
It does indeed, and it's the biggest police state outside of any communist countries.
That I did not know.
And we don't want to be like Singapore. I think we're quite happy as we are.
Well, there's absolutely zero chance that we're going to be like Singapore. And if we go even slightly down that road, then everybody should grip onto something firm because it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Warning! Warning!
All right, thanks a lot, Mohammed. Here are some facts about Singapore. Does anybody want to know facts about Singapore?
No.
There's only 5.5 million people there for a start. It's about half the size of London and about as big as the Isle of Wight. It's a city-state. It's the third most densely populated country on Earth. It's the world's biggest port. It's what they do for a living. That and the financial finagling. Its location means that it has benefited from the globalization of trade and its proximity to China and the shift in manufacturing from west to east. So it's just lucky where it is. It has no history of port infrastructure like we do. It's all brand new. That's why people come back and go, oh, it's so wonderful in Singapore. We should be more like Singapore. It's so clean and everything works well. Well, yeah, they just built it. Their tube isn't 100... Do they have a tube? I don't know. But their railway system isn't 100 years old. Comparing us to Singapore is like comparing the whole of this country to London. And it ain't like that. And like that bloke just said, it has a staggeringly high level of income inequality. The rich are really rich, which brings up the per capita income level. But that hides the fact that the poor are very poor by comparison. It ranks alongside Bolivia and Rwanda. Anybody want to live there?
No.
No, even the people in Bolivia and Rwanda don't want to live there. I mean, we are far more equal. I mean, we're pretty unequal, but we're far more equal than Singapore as far as wealth is concerned. I mean, we're not Denmark or Sweden, but considerably more fair as a society than they are in Singapore. And you know what? Those countries at the top of the World Happiness Index, I know I keep banging on about this, and people think, well, it's just so superficial and inconsequential a thing. Happiness Index? Who cares? Just tell me about the money, honey. It doesn't make no never mind. Millionaires can be the most miserable people. What's the point of going through life having a little bit more money if you're miserable from the moment you wake up to the moment you go back to sleep again? We only go around once. Let's just grab as much HAPPY-ness as we can. Who's with me? We're 19th in the happiness index. You know, all the happiest countries, they're all the same. Every year it comes out. Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway, New Zealand, there's places like that. Every time. We're 19th. Singapore is 34th. People are not happy in Singapore. It's worse than Saudi Arabia or Qatar. And so those that hail Singapore as an example of what we can become are either very rich or very stupid. But I'm not stupid, they'll say. Simon of Windsor says, you bang on about these Scandinavia countries, but who would want to live in a country where breakfast is ham and cheese on a bit of bread and a load of yogurt-type products? Ew.
Disgusting.
He says, give me the full English any time. Oh, God, I couldn't... To start a day on a full English. It's like a plate swimming in grease. How can anybody start the day? Unless you are a scaffolder or something like that, you're going to work it all off after about, within a couple of hours. No thanks. Porridge. I want a big bowl of porridge with nuts and prunes and seeds. Doesn't that sound like the hippie way to start the day?
Groovy.
Lilo in Birmingham says, I listen to LBC with Classic FM on in the background too. My cat likes to listen to Classic FM on his iPhone. My cat? Your cat has an iPhone? That is a good idea. I invented that idea. I've invented radio. Listen to LBC with Classic FM on in the background. And then when something really aggravating comes on the radio, and, some arrogant host who keeps spewing nonsense all over the wireless, when that comes on, you feel like shouting at the radio, just put Classic FM on in the background. I've invented a whole new way of listening. You're welcome. I should get paid for that. Don't you think?
I think you should.
Yes.
That's a good invention.
It is a good invention. I've invented radio. Ian in Cambridge says, I'm an accountant and therefore too boring to be of interest. I'm sorry, it doesn't say that at all. It says, I'm an accountant and I have a full English every day. No better way to live, says Ian. Well, you better do all your living straight away, Ian, because you probably haven't got much time to go. A full English every day. How can you start the day? Particularly if you have a sedentary life, as you do being an accountant. All the paper clips in. They're over there. Monty Python. Yeah, if you're sitting down all day, how can you start with sausage and bacon and fried egg and fried bread and beans and mushrooms? How can you? Adam says, please can you stop talking about trivial, unimportant issues like Brexit and climate change and get back to the main item on the agenda. Are your cars fixed yet? No. My old car had a major error warning.
Warning!
And there was some thing with brakes. I personally don't think brakes are very important on a car, but the engineer seemed to think it was an issue that needed addressing. And in order to address it, I need a new part which costs significantly more than my car is worth. So I did the smart thing and bought a second-hand part on eBay. I am a moron. This can only go wrong, unless it goes right. In which case I'll have saved myself about 700 quid and I'll have a fully functioning car. I don't want to give my car up. It's like, it'd be like giving up a part of my person. I mean, pick a part of your person, your intimate person, that you would that you would feel comfortable giving up. There isn't one. I feel that way about my car, my old car. I don't want to give it up. I don't want it to be crushed. I don't want it to be taken apart for parts or any of those. I don't even want to leave it on the street. Oh, I feel so sorry for it. All there on its own with the other newer, meaner cars. So hopefully, pretty pleased with sugar on top. The bloke can put this second-hand part in that I'm getting from, I've got no idea. I just bought it on eBay. And he can make it work again. Wouldn't that be marvellous? The car that I bought because my old car broke, it still broke, and my new car, I have my suspicions. It's not a new car, it's a second-hand, well, it's a third-hand car. I took it to the garage, and they couldn't see anything wrong with it. I took it to get the wheels aligned, and they said every wheel is out, like it's been in a crash. I thought, oh, God, here we go again. And it makes a funny noise as it goes along the road. But, apart from that... Coming up, I react to a news report of a man with a beard being accused of disrespecting Her Majesty, and what happens when ice melts in water.
If you run...
Including the Second World War. How disgusting, appalling and outrageous that a compere on LBC should get away with a disgusting comment as such. Does he really feel that the loss of millions of lives relates to a democratic result? Well, that would be an outrageous thing for a person to say if, in fact, I had said it. But I didn't. But, don't let the truth get in the way of a really good ire fest. Of course, they won't hear that because they're not listening to this anymore. Yeah, I bet you are. This says, dark days ahead, Nick, with this lot. What's up with people voting for Johnson? Only thing worse than a Tory, and that's a working-class Tory. I remember somebody saying their granddad borrowed a pair of boots to walk to the polling station to vote for the Tories. When was that election? 1940? I seriously doubt it. Aminga tweeted, OMG, we got a bleeping Ramona idiot called Nick Abbot moaning on LBC right now. Why do these Ramona Muppets get airtime? We voted for Brexit 3 times already. Get over it. We just want Brexit. Oh, the desperation in people's minds. They just can't wait to get to the sunny uplands. Oh, it'll be so fantastic when we get there. That's what they've been promised, a better life, and they want it to start right now. Best of luck with that. David says, I would like to congratulate Prime Minister Johnson and the Tory party on their huge victory, and let's hope we now enter a period of political calm. 3 exclamation marks at the end of it, which makes it sound like, or look like rather, a sarcasm. It's impossible to tell when it's written down. Are you being sarcastic? And Jeff says, can anybody explain to me why it is that the icebergs melting will cause the sea levels to rise? This again. When water freezes to form ice, and a little knowledge. When water freezes to form ice, it expands. This is why engines need antifreeze. Without it, the engine cracks. Since the majority of the ice is below sea level, when it melts, it will shrink in size, so the sea level should drop, says Jeff, who's looked at this in great detail. He's an expert. Oh... Do we really need to go through this again? Get Greta Thunberg on the phone and she'll explain it to you. It's not the ice in the water that's the problem, it's the ice on the land. But you would have known that, Jeff, if you just, looked it up. You've probably got an internet near you. Have you seen the internet?
Disgusting.
All sorts you'll find on there. If the ice on Greenland melts and finds its way into the sea, which it will, then the sea levels could rise 7.4 metres. And this is what you'll be hearing.
Warning! Warning!
7.4 metres. I would imagine that would make London and pretty much anywhere that was built by either the coast or a river uninhabitable. We'd have to go live in yurts up a Welsh hillside with sheep. But you would have known that, Jeff, if you just looked it up. This is an educational programme every now and again, ain't it?
No.
Not really, no. Doesn't matter how many times you say over and over and over again. Meanwhile, Greta Thunberg, out of the Trying to Save the Planet organisation. Actually, it's not saving the planet. The planet will do just fine. It's saving our position on the planet that's the problem. That's what we're trying to fix here, to maintain our position on the planet. Because through millions of years, the planet has grown, or 6,000 years, if you were one of those people. For 6,000 years since the invention of the Earth, since it was popped out of nothing by the giant invisible space wizard, the intricacies of life on Earth have been weaving themselves around each other, and we find ourselves in this comfortable position we are in today. But if the sea levels rise by 7 metres, we're screwed. The planet will be all right. It's just our position on it won't be. But you'd have known that, Jeff, if you just looked it up. Specifically, which ones is she talking about being put up against a wall? And whose wall?
I would build a great wall, and nobody builds walls better than me, believe me.
Yeah, believe him. Every time he says believe me, don't believe him.
Believe me, believe me, believe me, believe me, believe me, believe me, believe me. Okay.
The 16-year-old Swede made a comment in a speech to young activists in the Italian city of Turin yesterday. Mrs. Thunberg later said she was making a literal translation from the Swedish, in which the expression means to put somebody on the spot with tough questions. But people who are pretending to take offence about absolutely anything did their nut. Eyeballs popping out of their skulls and bouncing off the walls opposite them. "You mean you want to kill us all?" they said. Not put up against the wall, put on the spot. She was translating from the Swedish. See, this is part of that, the fury mongers. They just go, aha, Greta Thunberg, we can ignore her because she just said she wanted to kill all politicians. Not all politicians. She said, but of course, being a nice person. Donald Trump, by the way, not a nice person.
Donald Trump is a very nice person.
Being a nice person, Greta Thunberg said, I apologise to anybody who misunderstood this. I apologise for any inconvenience you may have experienced while trying desperately to misunderstand what I said. She told the crowd in Turin that world leaders were running away from their responsibilities to fight climate change, which is completely correct in every respect. They are. I mean, they're in Italy at the moment. They jetted in at vast expense to the planet in order to come up with some way of writing a communique that makes it look as though they're doing something. Because that's all that the human race is going to do. We're not going to actually do anything. We're just going to make it look as though we're doing something. When our sofas are float out of the windows in our living rooms, then we'll say, gosh, it really is awful and something should be done. Yeah, we'll do that any moment now. Thunberg told the crowd in Turin that world leaders were running away from their responsibilities to fight climate change. We have to make sure they cannot do that. We will make sure that we put them against the wall and that they will have to do their job and protect our futures. And the usual suspects just latched onto that and dismissed everything that she's ever said on any subject because they started screaming that she wanted to kill them all. The little schoolgirl. A little schoolgirl has spoken. Right-wing voices on social media. Ugh. How are we in a place where what numpties right on social media is news? How has that come about? What people write on social media is news now. Who is responsible?
A president! Can you believe it?
Right-wing voices on social media pretended to interpret her comment as a call for violence against politicians. The little schoolgirl. They're kidding on that they're frightened of her. And she had to tweet, or felt the need to tweet, that she and the youth movement that she inspired is against all forms of violence. She said, it goes without saying, but I said it anyway. Exactly. Stupid numpties who get their news from Donald Trump's Twitter feed want to ignore all the evidence around them and look for ways to discredit the messenger. Look, her parents have got a car. She uses chemicals to clean the kitchen. She's breathing out carbon dioxide. Guilty. Coming up, a doctor writes. Dr. Amar emails. Doctor, you have to stick your title in there to impress me? Nobody else does, Doctor. Nobody writes in and says, I'm Mr. or Mrs. People with a funny title, they're just, they insist on using it, don't they? Dr. Amar emails, as though his opinion is more valuable than anybody else's. Or her, sexist. The icebergs in the sea came from the land, they did not form in the sea. Yeah. And? Yeah, and? Is that it? Presumably he was trying to, telling me he's a doctor, as though that imbues him with some special knowledge about icebergs. Are you a doctor of icebergs, by any chance? Trying to disprove the point that if the ice on Greenland melts, then we're all in big trouble, huge. But that doesn't disprove anything of the sort, Doctor. Better luck next time. Richard in Carmarthen emails, here's some interesting information. Oh, information. Finally. Although the shortest day is still a week away, yesterday was the earliest sunset, so you can now look forward to lighter evenings. Really? On the downside, always. On the downside, dawn is still getting later, and will continue to do so until December the 30th. So don't ask me why that happens this way, but I'm sure one of your callers will be along shortly to blame it on Jeremy Corbyn. Yeah, well, maybe Dr. Amar can point his giant brain at that issue. Yeah, if all of the ice on Greenland melts, then we are in huge trouble, and it's started to melt at a massive rate. Specifically, massive. You know, if we're looking for facts, that is a fact. I found this on the internet, where Donald Trump gets all of his information.
What do I know about it? All I know is what's on the internet.
The ice covering Greenland is up to 3 kilometres thick in certain places, covering an area 7 times the amount of the UK. Wow, that's huge. If all of this ice were to melt, sea levels would rise by 7.4 metres around the planet, which would be catastrophic. It would dislodge millions of people from their homes. London would become unlivable. And then where are we going to go? Pretty much every town on Earth was formed around a water source. You know, that's why it started in the first place, either a river or a coast. So the entire human race is looking at just unimaginable costs. Can you conceive of how expensive it would be to move cities? We'd be sent back to the Stone Age. There'd be riots on the streets in about 10... Well, if they weren't covered in water, there'd be riots. Very difficult to riot while you're in a canoe. Kay emails, maybe you should enter everyone who texts into LBC with a good, sensible, accurate message, without spelling mistakes and without abuse or swear words, into a competition to win money. You can thank me now. That's an excellent idea. The best, most correct, without spelling mistakes, abuse or swear words, text, email or message that I get on this programme, wins a major prize. Major prize not available. Terms and conditions apply. Always read the label. And finally, I know I put this caller on a lot, but she's just such good value for money. Let's have a call in Bloomsbury. Sophia.
Hi, Nick, how are you?
Oh, my God, you're loud. Yes, Sophia.
That's great.
Is it? Grate, yes.
Yes, it could be. I'm glad. I feel you're not too overjoyed at the result of the election.
No, you're going to get over it? You're going to be all right?
I think it's terrible. Why do they have it now? And is that the most important thing in the last 100 years?
Is what the most important thing?
Boris wants to be Prime Minister.
Oh, well, everything else must take a back seat.
Exactly. Anyway, they brought their dog down with its Christmas hat on.
Who did?
The people that bring the dog around.
They bring a dog around?
Yes.
What do they do that for?
It's a German dog, and people like to see it. It's a sausage dog, not eat it, to see it. But we looked for the top of the Christmas tree where the...
Well, you know where that is.
Where the dog should be, but there was just a fairy there. You know, every little girlie wants to be the fairy on the Christmas tree.
Well, you're making a lot of sense.
Yes, indeed. And but everybody wants to pick up my dog Frisk and cuddle it, so it's probably winning. But we've got more dogs than they have, just the same.
Who's they?
The terrible duo, Boris and the Orange Monster.
Right.
So,
do they have dogs? I don't know.
Well, that's the point, yes. Me and Kevin went down to Battersea Dogs Home, where Boris suddenly instated one into the number 10, and then he went out. First of everyone, a very good bit of Boris one-upmanship with a dog called Dylan.
Yeah, quite. I was going to say the exact same thing myself.
Yeah, why do they call the dog Dylan, though? Do you know?
Precisely. I've got no idea.
I used Dill to cook fish with.
Well, that's a good idea, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, I think we can't have both of the terrible trio, so we have to get on with impeaching Trump. Or because of what happened in the Ukraine, because I don't believe that he's going to give us a good trade deal at all.
Right, okay.
And it's more interested in China. Even China's getting higher priorities at the present moment.
Yeah, no doubt.
So who are we going to trade with?
I don't know, Sophia, but keep thinking, and as soon as you come up with an idea, you let me know straight away, okay?
Yeah, I'll just sing a Christmas song.
Yeah, absolutely. Sing me a Christmas song. Go ahead.
Are you going to San Francisco?
Oh, no, we've run out of time on that call. And not a moment too soon. And that's it. If you subscribe to this podcast, the next episode will get squirted up your life as though by magic on Mondays. And don't forget the podcast that I do with Carol McGiffin, which is called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol. If you would like us to